It's my honor to be the one that gets to introduce Member of Parliament MP Andrew Lawton, and he's going to give us an update on Bill C-9. And if I could just share a little bit about you, Andrew, before we get started here. Andrew is a newly elected Member of Parliament for Elgin St. Thomas, London South. He's been one of the leading voices on the Justice Committee. Great work there, bringing awareness to the many problematic elements of C-9. And prior to his political career, he was a very popular journalist with True North, building an independent media force in our nation. Did a great job there. And so it's my honor to give you the floor now, Andrew, to get an update on Bill C-9. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Doug, for having me, and thank you all for joining. I know there are many things most people would rather be doing with their days than listening to a politician or talking about politics, but I think it's incredibly important, and I cannot overstate the urgency of this meeting and of this topic on Bill C-9. I'll share the good and the bad here. The good is that we had a very important win last week. It was not a win on the overall fight, but it was a very important win. The Liberals were trying to usher C-9 through the legislative process incredibly quickly. They wanted it waved through. They were expecting to have it fully passed and sent off to the Senate by this past week. And we were able to, through a lot of the work of you and those on this call even, we were able to put enough pressure on the Liberals and actually work as legislators. My Conservative colleagues and I are incredibly aware of the stakes here and hold things off at least until the end of January. Now, I know this isn't as good a news as we would have liked. We're hoping that the government will just pull this very dangerous bill, which puts religious freedom in its crosshairs. But we have at least bought ourselves some time. So I just wanted to share very briefly why this matters. So C-9 was already fraught. There were already a number of issues raised about how the bill would affect people, not just people of faith, but all Canadians that might express at some point in their life a viewpoint that someone else might disagree with. And there were concerns being raised by religious groups, by free speech advocates, by people on the left and the right. And when we were working our way through this committee process, it became very apparent that there was a risk of the bill getting even worse. The Bloc Québécois was raising this aspect of the criminal code it's long had an issue with, which is a religious defense under hate speech laws. And why this matters is because we have in Canada robust hate speech laws that have a very high threshold. We are a country that respects freedom of expression and freedom of religion. The government should not have the right to infringe on anyone's freedom except in the most extreme cases. And the reason that this law has been upheld as constitutional is in part because it has carved into it these defenses, such as whether speech is in the public interest or whether speech is conforming to someone's good faith religious beliefs or a good faith reading of religious texts. And there is something very important in that, which is that we have people that like to think that there is no such thing as a good faith religious text that is deemed by certain people to be hateful. We saw this in the Justice Committee a few weeks back when Mark Miller, who was at the time the chair, he's a Liberal member of Parliament, said that you should be criminally charged if you quote certain books of the Bible, and he named Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Romans. He said there are passages that are inherently hateful, and you should face criminal charges if you quote that. He was promoted to being the Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture just a couple of weeks after that incident. And now we have in Bill C-9 an amendment that has been adopted removing that religious defense from the criminal code. Now, the amendment has been adopted, but the bill has not been passed. The bill has not made it out of committee. So right now, the bill is still living in the committee process. We have been holding the line on this because this is a fundamental religious freedom issue. And I'm going to share something very important here because most Christians would say, well, this doesn't apply to me. My religion is not hateful. When I read the Bible, it's not hateful. God is about love. That is the message of Christianity. That is not what's at issue here. What is at issue is how other people will choose to interpret or will choose to assess or malign our faith beliefs. And that's where the comments from Mark Miller are very important because he has chosen to project onto Christians and Jews. He's talking about Old Testament as well. He's chosen to project onto them hate and hatred that does not exist. But that's what we're up against, is what people that want to silence us are going to do, how they are going to interpret this legislation, and how law enforcement, which will be told if this bill passes by the government that religious speech is now fair game for prosecution, that you could actually be criminally charged and serve up to 2 years in jail if you quote scriptures that the government finds offensive or you express good faith religious beliefs the government finds offensive. So that is why this has been a red line issue. We have a petition that we've put forward, my conservative colleagues and I, that is simply to protect religious freedom, to call on the government to reject this amendment and reject the bill outright. We have members of parliament all across the country that are hosting similar events to this, small and large. I'm actually going to be meeting with several groups in January at various parts of the country, and I think I might be able to meet with some of you in person when that time comes. And I see that my colleague Rachel Thomas is going to be on this call at some point if she hasn't been already. She's been a tremendous defender of religious freedom herself. But this is a crucial issue, and why there's an urgency to it now is because we have, between now and when the House of Commons comes back in late January, that's our runway here. Between now and late January, understanding that Christmas, the holidays, is going to make it very difficult for people to do things. But that's why it's so important right now that people do mobilize and assemble in these communities, that people reach out to their members of parliament. Even if you have someone like Rachel or I who's already on board with this, it's important for us to hear from you so that when we go to Ottawa, we can have a stack of letters to read from to share exactly what people in the community are saying. One thing I'll share with you, I've received, I suspect, more emails about C-9 than any other single issue since I've been a member of parliament. Now, admittedly, that's just 7 months. Of all of the emails I've gotten, 2 have been supportive of the bill. That is it. The rest have been people rising up to say they do not support this, they do not want this, they did not ask for this. The issues that we were hoping to tackle on the Justice Committee were issues to do with crime and bail reform and sentencing reform. No one elected me because they wanted to have police regulating and censoring what ministers are saying behind in their churches. When I have spoken to law enforcement, not once have they said, you know, what we really want to do is go in and start policing the pulpit. That is not what law enforcement wants, but that's what government is doing through Bill C-9. So it's so important that we turn this conversation into action, to reach out to members of parliament, because that's going to be the deciding factor in what happens when parliament and the Justice Committee reconvene in about 5-6 weeks' time from now.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Andrew. That is a fantastic update. And you know, that's really key. We're gonna dial right in on something that you said there, Andrew, about the importance of action and getting in touch with members of parliament. As you've just heard from a member of parliament, when somebody gets in touch with his office, he notices. Andrew, you when people call you and get in touch with you, you notice that. And Fatine has so wisely set up a strategy within For My Canada, and everyone can make a note of this website. It's formycanada.com. If you go to that website and you click on Bill C-9, you'll actually go to a list of where all the Member of Parliament's contact information is. You'll see it there. And what Fatine's done for us is she's highlighted in yellow 40 of the electoral districts where there are where it's kind of a tight race. You know, it's kind of a tight race where they really would like to know that this is not going to be a popular move for their members of parliament to vote for this bill, for this amendment. So thank you, Andrew, for bringing it. You basically have really said that strategy of Fatine's is on the money. Anything else you want to add just before we move on, Andrew?
Yeah, I'll share a couple of things. Number one, form emails have a role, but they are not nearly as impactful as a personally written email or a phone call, or even better, a request for a meeting. I think that's the thing, because when I get 100 form emails on a subject, I write one reply and that just gets sent out automatically to everyone. But it's a lot harder to be as dismissive with a request that someone has sent where they've talked about exactly why this matters to them. And, I've had faith leaders that, as a member of parliament, I've never actually been able to engage with until now, that this has awakened them. So people are still feeling this. The Conference of Catholic Bishops, they came out with a very strong statement of this. There was a message I saw in the comments a moment ago. I can't remember who posted it, but they're saying, "Are the liberals criminalizing Jews and Christians?" It's all faiths are targeted by this. The Muslim community has been incredibly vocal about this because they see this as being a tool to attack them. Christians have. The Jewish community is mixed. Some Jewish organizations are very supportive of Bill C-9 because they've seen the rampant, anti-Semitic hate over the last couple of years. But that has been because there's been a lack of political leadership and there's been a failure to enforce existing laws. The Jewish community was not asking for this overhaul of the criminal code. And a lot of religious Jews, rabbis, they've been very vocal in saying, well, hang on, this will affect us as well. We don't want to be at risk of prosecution for quoting the Torah. So it is all people of faith that are targeted by this. I'm obviously more familiar with Christianity, but Sikhs and Hindus, they are just as squarely in the crosshairs of this government. This removes religious freedom protections that all of us benefit from. And even people who are not religious are still dealing with Bill C-9's broader infringement of the right to freedom of expression, and especially when it comes to political speech. So this is something that people of faith are especially directly targeted by, but all Canadians need to be aware of how concerning and harmful this bill is.
Well said. Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you for your time and joining us today on the call. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. And please pray for Ottawa. That's all I can ask.
Always, always.